My name is Sefako, 34 years old. I live in one of the busiest cities in Africa, the kind that doesn't sleep, doesn't blink, doesn't stop moving until it did. The night it all started, I had no idea what was coming. I was just a guy finishing a Thursday evening shift as a freelance software engineer. My eyes were sore, my coffee cold, and my back stiff from hours hunched over code. I needed a break. I needed people, sound, anything but my silent apartment and glowing screen. So I went out. I threw on a hoodie, plugged in my earbuds, and walked down to this bar called Pulse. It was nothing fancy, but they played good music. And the wings were cheap. It was nearly midnight, and the streets were still buzzing. Taxis, honking, hawkers yelling. Laughter drifting from windows and alleys. I remember passing a street preacher shouting about the turning hour. He was wearing a stained white robe and had no shoes. He looked me in the eye as I walked by and said, "After midnight, the city sheds its skin. You won't like what's underneath." I just laughed. People say all kinds of things in the city. I kept walking at Pulse. The music was loud and sticky with bass. The kind of music you don't dance to, just feel. I ordered a drink. The bartender nodded and turned to get it. That was the last time anyone moved. I looked around. The woman beside me had her mouth open, mid-laugh. The bartender stood frozen, glass in hand, mid-pour. A man in the corner was mid-text, thumb still on the screen. It was like someone hit pause on the entire bar except me. The music cut off. All at once, I stood there for what felt like minutes, but could have been seconds. I waved at the bartender. Nothing. I tapped the woman's shoulder. She didn't flinch. My heart started to pound. Sick cold crept into my chest. I pulled out my phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi. The time, 12:01 a.m. I backed away from the bar and pushed open the door. Outside was worse. The city, the one I grew up in, was silent. Not quiet, silent, no cars, no people. No dogs barking, no distant hum of power. Just silence so loud it rang in my ears. Streetlights still glowed, traffic lights still blinked yellow, but not a single soul moved. The road that just 30 minutes ago had taxis honking and lovers walking was now dead empty. I started walking, calling out at first, a little embarrassed, then more frantic. "Hello? Is anyone out here?" Nothing. I walked 10 blocks, not a car, not a voice. Not even the hum of a generator. Somewhere deep inside me, something shifted. That's when I knew this wasn't a prank. This wasn't a power outage. This wasn't even a dream. The world had changed. I turned back toward my apartment, walking faster now. The wind picked up, not a breeze, but sharp and sudden, almost like a warning. Trees rustled like they were whispering secrets. Then I saw it. A single street vendor's cart tipped over on the sidewalk. Skewers of suya scattered, sauce still dripping, smoke curling from the hot coals. Whoever was running it had left fast or been It was still 12:01 a.m. when I saw the first moving thing. Not a person, not really. It looked human at first. But the way it moved was all wrong, like someone trying to remember how legs work. Every step was too long, too floaty, like the ground was optional. It stopped under a flickering street lamp, and I swear, it tilted its head all the way back like a puppet on snapped strings. I shut the curtain. Then my lights flickered. I hadn't turned them back on. My heart nearly exploded. I stood in total silence, watching the light bulb above me dim and glow again, like a slow breath. And then my doorbell rang 3 times. Soft but deliberate, ding ding ding. My mouth went dry. I didn't move. Then the knock came. Not pounding, just a slow, rhythmic tap. Tap, tap. On the wooden door, like a child's knuckle, I backed away. Barely breathing, then it stopped. Silence. I waited 5 more minutes, heart slamming in my throat, before creeping toward the PEEPHOL. No one was there, but something was, right there on the doormat. Was a toy, a small wooden spinning top. The kind my grandfather used to make with string, and scratched into the wood of my door. In crude block letters, still awake. I didn't open the door, not that night. Instead, I paced the apartment, turned off all the lights, and waited. Every now and then, I'd check the time, still 12:01 a.m. No matter how long I waited, my phone didn't update. No messages, no notifications. Just stillness. Like the whole world had stopped, but something inside it kept ticking. Day 2. Or whatever it was. The power went out sometime while I sat on the couch. I hadn't moved for what felt like hours. The silence was no longer strange. It was thick. Like the city was holding its breath. I finally built up the courage to go outside. I carried a flashlight and a kitchen knife I'd taped to a broom handle. Don't judge me. The hallway of my apartment building was lined with open doors, all of them. Just swinging gently like someone had left in a rush. But inside, nothing, no people, no bodies, no blood. Just meals half-eaten, TVs on static, dishes in sinks. Time frozen. I made it out to the street again. Still looked the same, empty. Wrong but the sky. The sky looked off. It was dark, yes, but not black. It had this reddish tint around the edges. Like sunset smeared into midnight, and the moon wasn't there anymore. Just smooth gray circle. No light, no stars. Like someone had erased the sky. I wandered until I saw movement. Not a person, a bird. Perched on a street sign. Watching me, I stepped closer, and it didn't fly away. Instead, it spoke in a rasping human voice. "You're the last one still walking forward." I froze. "What?" I whispered. The bird twitched its head. "Don't go south." "That's where?" "The screams are. North is where the clocks tick. You want east. East is where time remembers." Then it fell off the sign, dead. I ran, back to my building, back to the only place that still felt like mine. When I got to my door, the spinning top. I pressed my back against the wall, holding my breath. The footsteps outside my apartment door stopped. Then came a scratch. Not a knock, not a kick. A slow, deliberate scraping sound, like fingernails dragging along the wood. Then a whisper through the crack beneath the door, still awake. I didn't answer. I didn't move. Then came a new sound. Something wet, like someone licking the keyhole. That was it. I grabbed my makeshift spear and bolted into the bathroom, locking the door. Behind me, I sat on the cold tile floor, staring at the doorknob, trying not to blink. The city had gone mad, or maybe I had. But I wasn't going to let whatever that was inside. Then something clicked inside my mind. The bird's words, "East is where time remembers." Was there something in the east side of the city? Oh, something. That could explain this. Something that could reset time. I waited until I heard nothing. No scratching, no footsteps. It's just that humming silence. Then I packed what I could. Flashlight, food, batteries, a journal, and I left. The streets weren't like before. They were changing. Buildings that used to be 6 stories tall were now twisted like they'd been melted and reshaped into spirals and thorns. Storefronts had signs with backwards letters, and no matter how fast I walked, the city seemed to rearrange around me. But I kept heading east. There were others, not like me. Things moving in the alleys. Tall, thin silhouettes. Some crawled along walls like insects. Others stood motionless, watching me from windows. And once I passed a parked city bus, and it was full of people, frozen, sitting perfectly upright, hands on laps, eyes open, not blinking. I stepped closer. One woman's eyes moved. They followed me. But she didn't blink, didn't breathe, just stared. Trapped in place, I tapped the window. Her mouth moved. One word: run. I sprinted. Didn't stop until I crossed the old freeway overpass. East side. But it was worse here. Because here, there were clocks. Thousands of them. Clocks nailed to lampposts. Clocks hanging from tree branches. Cuckoo clocks and wristwatches dangling from telephone wires like corpses. And all of them ticking, 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 ticking. I followed the sound to an old bookstore, one I hadn't seen before. It had no name, just a glass door. Slightly ajar. Inside was warm. Dusty, but the clocks were louder here. Deafening. Behind the counter sat an old woman knitting. She looked up at me like she'd been waiting. "You missed the turn," she said simply. "The what?" "The turning hour. Midnight. When time decided who stayed and who didn't." "I don't understand," I croaked. "Where is everyone gone?" she said. "Or worse, stuck. Why am I still here?" "You resisted the lull," she said, placing her knitting down. "The city sang, and you didn't sleep. That makes you visible to them. Them, the time eaters." She stood, pulling a book from behind the counter. It had my name. On the spine, my full name. She flipped it open. Blank pages, except one. A single entry, still awake. I stepped back. "This is crazy." "Not crazy," she said. "Remembered? You're remembered, and that makes you dangerous. But it also gives you a chance." "What kind of chance?" She handed me a small black key. "There's a door," she whispered. "In the heart of the city, a place." I kept running, down tunnels that shouldn't exist. The deeper I went, the more reality bled. Concrete walls dissolved into pulsating black veins. The ground throbbed under my feet like a beating heart. Every now and then, my flashlight flickered, and I'd catch glimpses of things, people frozen mid-step, mid-scream, mid-life, trapped in loops of a time that no longer belonged to them, and always behind me. That whisper, "You're out of toes." I don't know how long. I ran before I collapsed, but when I woke, I wasn't alone. There was a boy, maybe 10, sitting beside me. He held a toy car in one hand, but it was cracked and melted like it had aged 1,000 years. "They got my mom," he said. His voice was hollow. To calm, she didn't listen to the lullaby. She stayed awake, too. "You've been down here the whole time?" I asked. He nodded. "There's more of us. It's the ones who remember." He stood and pointed down the tunnel. "It's almost midnight. You need to reach the door before then." We moved fast, past rusted tracks and glowing red eyes in the darkness. At one point, the tunnel opened into a cavern, and the walls were made entirely of watches. Millions of them, all ticking, all different times. The boy explained that the time eaters didn't live in time. They fed on it. Every second we wasted brought them closer. Finally, we reached a stairwell made of stone. It spiraled up, and up at the top was a door, ancient, carved from obsidian. In its center was a keyhole, the exact size of the key the old woman had given me. But before I could move, something stepped out from the shadows behind us. It wasn't a person, it was me, another version of me, older, tired, eyes hollow, face lined with grief and exhaustion. "Don't open it," he said softly. "I've been through it." "What? What is this?" "You think opening that door resets everything? No. It shows you everything. Every second you lived. Every second. You forgot the choices, the moments, the time you stole from others just by existing." The boy stepped behind me, clutching my leg. "You're not real?" I said. I'm what happens when you open that door and fail." My hands trembled as I lifted the key. He lunged. I shoved the key into the lock and twisted. A sound like thunder, no, like screaming clocks, erupted all around us. The door opened, and we fell. Not physically, my mind fell, tumbling through memories. Time reversed. I saw everything: my childhood, my regrets, the lies I told, the pain I caused, the people I forgot. I saw the boy again, not as a stranger, but as my brother. The one I left behind when I ran from home. The one I hadn't thought about in years. He had died in a house fire, alone. But here, he was trying to guide me, because I had been given another chance. I hit the ground, not in the tunnel, not in the darkness, but in my apartment. 7:59 p.m. Before midnight, I ran to the window. Outside, people walked. Lights glowed. Cars, honked. The city was alive. I checked my phone. A new text message from an unknown number. "Remember us?" A dot. It was over. Until I looked down and my palm was the black key, still warm and carved on its side. New letters that hadn't been there before. Second turn coming. You'd think I'd feel relieved. That escaped. Reset time saved the city. But that key, that cursed black key, it burned in my palm. And the more I stared at it, the more I realized I hadn't escaped. I'd only paused the nightmare. The clocks ticked faster in my apartment. My watch spun in reverse. My phone refused to stay on 8 p.m. No matter what I did, every screen, every digital display, all said one thing: 11:59 p.m. And then the whispers returned. Softer, sadder, second turn. Begins. I ran outside. The city looked normal. But the people, they were slower, blinking too little, moving like puppets. Every conversation repeated in loops, as if the world had rewound. But only I could see the seams. One woman laughed 5 times in a rosame pitch. Same tone, same blank after dot. And then the streetlights all shut off at once. Midnight struck. I didn't hear bells this time. Just silence, pure, suffocating, crushing silence. Then came the snap. Not like a bone breaking, more like reality fracturing. The ground tilted slightly to the left, like gravity glitch. And then everyone vanished again. Not slowly, not like vapor. They were just gone. Every human form erased. Only I remained, again, only this time. I saw what came next. The sky above peeled open. Not clouds, something behind them. A great eye, not metaphorical, a literal eye. The size of a city block blinked once in the sky. And locked on me, he saw, he remembered. Now he must choose. The voice wasn't sound, it was thought. It pressed behind my forehead, like it had always lived there, and suddenly I was no longer standing. I was floating, suspended in some version of the city. Not ruins, not real. A blueprint. Everything glowed with outlines. And the time eaters appeared. Not creatures. Versions of me. Every decision I didn't make. Every version of me who chose differently. Cowardly, cruel. They moved closer, and then the boy returned. He stood on a fractured stair, floating in midair. Toy car still in hand. You left me in the fire. Tears welled in my eyes. I didn't know how to save you. You didn't try. That was the truth. I'd been a teenager. Scared, frozen. And when the flames came, I ran and left my baby brother screaming behind the bedroom door. The world pulsed red. The voices of the time eaters circled. He's not ready. He's a coward. He's a thief of time. He remembered. But he did not change. I fell to my knees on the invisible platform, and for the first time, I spoke the truth. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "To you. To everyone. To time itself. What will you give?" They asked. The black key hovered in front of me. It now had 2 keyholes. One labeled Reset. The other, Replace. Understood? Reset, I'd wake up again. Rewind, try again. Replace, someone else would get a chance. But I'd be gone forever. No memory. No return. Erased like the others. A sacrifice. The price of peace. I turned the key toward Replace. The moment I turned it, everything went white. I awoke on a park bench. Midday, the sun shining. People walked, talked, laughed. Life had returned. The world had no memory of what happened, because someone had paid the price. But that someone wasn't me. It was the boy. He took my place. He made the choice I couldn't. Now I live every day knowing the truth. Time doesn't belong to us. It watches. It tests. It chooses. And if you ever find yourself awake at midnight, and everyone in your city is gone, you'll know your test has begun. And maybe, just maybe, they'll be watching, waiting to see if you do better than I did. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment "end" so that we could understand you were with us till the end, as well as please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, stay happy. Goodbye.